Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Ant-Man and the Wasp post-credit scene video. We got so much stuff to talk about. Kevin Feige confirmed some big details a couple weeks ago, so I'll try to explain what he said and how that fits into the context of what we know what's going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So obviously, spoiler warning if you haven't seen the movie yet, and there is a new round of that Infinity War Blu-ray giveaway. All you have to do to enter that is be a subscriber and leave a comment on the video. So at the end of the movie, we find that Hank and Janet have shrunk the quantum tunnel so that it's small enough to fit into Lewis's van, just to make it a little less conspicuous and easier to move around. Hank and Hope are still fugitives because they refuse to sign the Sokovia Accords. They didn't really resolve that plotline because they escaped from the FBI, so they're still trying to keep it on the DL, and Janet was presumed dead by S.H.I.E.L.D. 30 years ago, so she'd have to answer all kinds of questions if she just suddenly popped up, so she wants to stay off the radar too. So as of the end of the movie, Scott is the only one that's free and clear, so his 3 days are up, he's no longer on house arrest, he's totally free to go back and join Cap and the rest of the Avengers post-Snapshire. But what they're doing with the quantum tunnel is making good on the promise to finish healing Ghost of her quantum state instability, so they're sending Scott down to the quantum realm to collect quantum energy in a small container. Really important detail here, Janet warns him to watch out for a time vortex because time moves differently, as she implies that if he does get sucked into one, then he could wind up exiting in the past or in the future, he'd accidentally time travel and they wouldn't be able to find him. So remember that idea, time vortex, very important. When he's down in the quantum realm collecting that quantum energy, there's this explosion of color that looks like the rainbow of the Infinity Stone colors. So you're like, wait a minute, this kind of reminds me of the Infinity Gauntlet. But when he radios for them to bring him back, you find out that the Snapshire just happened. Hank, Hope, and Janet have all been turned to dust, and Scott thinks that he's stuck in the quantum realm. They just slammed to black, like, oh shit, how's he gonna get out? So here's where we get to the Kevin Feige Avengers 4 of it all. Kevin Feige confirmed this movie is mostly connected to Avengers 4, even though the Snapshire is an Infinity War moment. So yes, it does connect to both Avengers films, but the bigger things are all the teasers that they dropped during the Quantum Realm scenes in foreshadowing plot twists during Avengers 4. So a lot of the concepts that they introduced during the Quantum Realm will be important to how they fix the universe in Avengers 4. Now, the really important scene in the service of this is the way they explain Ghost's affliction in the way that Janet sort of explains how the quantum energy has changed her. She says that ever since Ghost was hit with the blast of quantum energy, she's been existing in multiple realities simultaneously without being able to control it, so her cells are ripped apart and put back together over and over again. The time vortex is another way of traveling through time without the time stone. So remember, we lost Doctor Strange. Even though Wong is probably very powerful, I don't know how big of a character he's going to be during Avengers 4. We've seen a lot of set pictures implying time travel, so just remember that in the back of your mind. We've heard about Cassie Lang in the future. Also remember that. The quantum energy in Scott's container can be used to manufacture devices that will allow all of the Avengers to travel between different realities. Why would that be important, I wonder? Well, if you needed Infinity Stones to form another Gauntlet and you couldn't steal them from Thanos, that's one way to get it. But also Kevin Feige said that we would be seeing alternate versions of pre-existing characters. The way to do that is to travel into different realities. So there are a couple ways that the Avengers could fix the universe, just based on the evidence that we've seen in Ant-Man and the Wasp, not even talking about the rumors that we've heard so far. Yes, that they could travel back in time into other realities to grab Infinity Stones and then use that to form a second gauntlet and then just undo what Thanos had done. But the other way, too, would also be to merge aspects of different realities with our own, even though that's the less heroic option because it's kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like if you wanted to bring Spider-Man back and you just stole a Peter from another reality, you'd be stealing him from his Aunt May, so that'd be kind of a shady thing to do. So, theory crafting here. Scott exits the quantum realm accidentally in a time vortex. When he comes out, there's a bit of a time jump, which explains why Iron Man's hair is a little bit whiter. Like, look at Robert Downey Jr.'s hair during Infinity War. Then look at his hair while he's walking around here. He looks like he's aged quite a bit, maybe like 5-6 years. So that also explains the casting call for the older version of Cassie Lang, because during the movie, there were a couple scenes with her where she talks about wanting to be a hero. Like they practice in that little tunnel at the beginning of the movie. Like she's play acting being a superhero. Then at the end of the movie, when Hope is talking to her, she says, I want to be a hero like my dad. I want to help people. So it's just all foreshadowing her becoming Stature like she did in the comics when she gets older. So imagine that the time vortexes of the quantum realm are the alternative way of time traveling without the Infinity Gauntlet, because the way they use the time stone makes it seem like it's not powerful enough to take everybody physically back in time. And even though we did see him turn back time at the end of the Doctor Strange movie to fix damage across a relatively big part of the city, it seems like in combination with traveling into different realities, it just becomes much more useful to go into the quantum realm. Because if you needed to get things from other realities, you couldn't do that with the time stone. You could only take stuff from our reality, and if you wanted to go back in time, say, like go back to the original Avengers movie and steal the Tesseract and the Mind Stone, then that would actually break Doctor Strange's plan. Remember, he said this is the only way. So things have to play out a certain way in our reality. But who's to say that they can't go and steal things from other realities, as long as it's just not people and as long as they put things back at the end of the movie. So if they do wind up taking Infinity Stones from other realities, then I imagine that instead of doing the Illuminati thing where they all become guardians of different Infinity Stones, they just put them back where they stole them from or give them to their counterparts and say, just make sure that nobody gets their hands on these ever. Like Deep Six this as much as possible. Because I don't think that they would have had that explosion of color, like they wouldn't have made the quantum realm resemble some of the aspects of the Infinity Stones if they didn't want you to think that that was a possibility. Like, oh wow, this energy seems like it has something to do with the Infinity Gauntlet. So we've all seen the little devices on everyone's wrists in those behind the scenes pictures. Now it sounds like they might be using a combination of the barfing technology that Iron Man had during Civil War to look at their memories and also use the quantum energy that's got collected to infuse those little wrist devices, and those are the things that are allowing them to exist in other realities or travel between universes. There's still a whole lot of questions like who's gonna create these. Like imagine Shuri gets her hands on this quantum energy because she and Iron Man have relatively similar ideas. Like they're both meant to be the smartest people on the planet, but they think in slightly different ways. And Shuri has been thinking more about what's going on with artificial intelligence because she was manipulating the mind gem trying to save Vision. So you have to imagine that there'll probably be a lot of science bros scenes with Iron Man and Shuri trying to figure out what to do with this quantum energy. But remember, Scott doesn't have any real connection to Wakanda. He met Black Panther briefly, but he's mostly connected to Iron Man. Like the writers of Civil War even said that if they hadn't gotten the Spider-Man character, then Iron Man, when he said that he had a guy and went to Queens, would have ended up going to recruit Ant-Man himself. So he would have been Team Iron Man if Spider-Man hadn't shown up. So imagine that Ant-Man exits in the future, then goes to try and find Tony Stark, and then explains what's going on with the quantum energy, where he came from, and the Avengers sort of catch him up on what happened with Thanos and why everybody suddenly turned to dust. Because I think what happens is no matter what point in time Scott exits the quantum realm, he exits out of the quantum tunnel, and because everything was rigged up in secret on this rooftop here, it's pretty easy to say it won't be disturbed anytime soon. So he could exit out, he'd probably see nothing, so it would seem like they've disappeared, so he probably thinks that they're still alive, but something just happened to them. The casting call for the older version of Cassie Lang also backdoor confirms she survived the snapshot. And Scott exits in the future, he probably runs into her. Where have you been for the last couple of years, Dad? We thought that you died, you disappeared. Like basically the same thing that happened to Janet Van Dyne happened to Scott. And even though it's not very important, we should mention the second post-credit scene. It's really just the ant that they had rigged up to pretend to be Scott playing the drums. So it was just meant to be a funny moment. That was the one that played after the entire credits had finished. But let me know in the comments, what did you think about the really big post-credits scene, and post all your Avengers 4 theories in the comments below. Remember, quantum energy, traveling between multiple realities, time vortexes, so time traveling without the need of the time stone. So right now, the timetable for big reveals for Avengers 4 is that we're getting the Captain Marvel teaser in a couple months. They'll reveal the official Avengers 4 title after that. I'm not expecting a whole lot of footage for that, but I do think that before the end of the year, we will see some Avengers 4 footage. So what'll happen over the next couple of days is I'll do more Ant-Man and the Wasp videos, just sort of explaining what's going on, do my full review, Easter egg video, all that stuff. Leave your requests in the comments below. Click here to learn all about the Eternals and the Celestials during Phase 4, and click here for more Avengers 4 title. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.